Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel and another conversation with the person who I came across recently and I truly enjoy talking to, with Mr. Jeff J. Brown. And before we start, I would like to remind you, just in case, to join my mailing list. Check out my Instagram to those of you who want more lighter content, my travels and beautiful places to look at instead of digging deeply into politics all the time. And yeah, all the links are down below, including all the informations of Jeff books and podcasts and every project that he is involved in and working on. Welcome back, Jeff. Thank you so much for finding time for this conversation.
Well, and Anya, thank you for having me on, and I'm happy to for you to be. You're a wonderful hostess, although that sounds bad, like airlines. But you're a wonderful host. We'll use the masculine version. You're a wonderful host, and you do a nice job. And I hope to have you on my show sometime to talk about some of the things that you're an expert at. So
yes, thank you. Well, as long as we arrive at the good final destination, I don't mind. So let's keep on flying just into the right direction, right? Well, Jeff,
That's right.
Me start. I want to know, because why would I go and deacon search when I have you on the ground in France? How is the atmosphere right now? What are people doing with this absolutely BS shenanigans, rigged again election?
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and come out initially and say, mea culpa. I actually included a chapter, I think it was in my second book, China Rising, where I compared the American voting system to the French voting system. And I lauded the French voting system as being far superior and corruption proof. And unfortunately, I'm finding out that's not true. Although it's not the three-ring, barking dog, circus that it is in the United States, that is just corrupt at every level. But there hasn't been an honest election in the United States since George Washington. But unfortunately, I'm hearing that there is corruption going on here in France. As I told you in the last interview, apparently thousands, if not tens of thousands of people in the first round on April 10th were scrubbed from the voting rolls, and they were only in areas where Blacks, Muslims, poor white people who would typically vote for Mélenchon, they were scrubbed from the rolls, so they couldn't vote. And now I'm hearing that I actually saw these are the two ballots that that I got in the mail, Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron, and it's very nice. You get an envelope. It's all very well done. I get an envelope with my name on it, and my wife also got one, and you get these real nice. The platform of each candidate. There's a mini Micron, and then you get the one for Le Pen, and it all looks really on the the voting boxes are transparent. They're made out of glass or plexiglass or clear plastic. But a guy on Twitter showed he got 3 envelopes with the ballots that he received, and the ones for Marine Le Pen had a tiny tear at the bottom that you really wouldn't notice. And by French law, that is a soiled ballot and has to be thrown away. Okay. The one for Macron was not torn, and he actually filmed opening brand new envelopes, and the ones for Marine Le Pen had a tear in them, so they would be required to throw those out. Apparently, there were 4.5 million soiled ballots in this second round, and so that's going on. apparently there was, I didn't know this because my wife and I, we were actually in Shenzhen in China back then in 2017, and we voted at the consulate in Guangzhou, and but apparently there were also a massive number of soiled votes thrown out in 2017. Apparently, to suppress Marine Le Pen in the second round. So what can I say? It's just as dirty, maybe not as farcical and over the top as the overt corruption in the United States, but clearly, in spite of this, this wonderful looking system that looks, really good, apparently it's dirty. I would say that in answer to your question, I would say the mood is not good. People are they're sick of what's going on. I think it's interesting, Ania. If you saw a map of the second round, almost all of the overseas territories, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Réunion, they're black. These people are blacks. Okay, yes. It's vastly majority black people, and they all voted for Mélenchon in the first round. They all voted for Le Pen in the second round, even though they're 95% black people. So they know they knew it was, and it's what my wife and I did, and I know my daughter in Paris did. We voted for Mélenchon in the first round, and we voted for Le Pen in the second round to try to avoid Macron. So as far as I'm concerned, the only intelligent people in France are the ones in Martinique and Guadeloupe and Guyane, French Guiana and Réunion, because they're the only ones that could see what was going on. It's not good. It's just, I don't know what it's
so Jeff,
depressing.
Depressing. Thank you for giving all those very important informations. But actually, first of all, I saw that video on Twitter that you mentioned. I'm so glad that you explained that about those votes that have this little tier, because I wasn't sure what kind of signaling this was, and now I know. Now, again, those islands, French islands, again, I heard about this, which is quite significant percentage as well. My question is this now. I came across a comment that was posted, I believe, under our video. Under our video, that comment was about a vote of confidence in France that takes place in June. Do you know anything about it? And
these are the legislative elections. See, the French separate the presidential election from the legislative election. So the vote in June 12th and 19th, round one and round two. This is basically voting for your House of Representatives in the United States, or your parliamentarians in England, or for the Russians of the Duma, etc. So what's going on now is that since Mélenchon was basically robbed of a chance to go against Macron head to head in the first round with the big lie propaganda machine. And by the way, I will point out, I want you to just know that I'm sorry, but my wife was watching television yesterday, the second, about the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vests, and 260,000 of them were protesting in Paris alone, probably 1 million around the country or close to it.
When was that, Jeff? When was it, sir?
May Day, Sunday, May Day, because it was May Day, International Labor Day. Yes. And she said it was unbelievable. They're sitting there holding microphones in front of people's faces, and they're all criticizing Mélenchon. I mean, this is so orchestrated. This is so intentional. she said she was disgusted. They didn't talk, and all they showed was like one building where a building was vandalized, and those were probably government agents. And so, because they're scared to death, they kept Mélenchon out of the presidency in 2017. They've kept him out in 2022. Now all the left, who unfortunately did not have the courage to recommend voting for Le Pen and told everybody to vote for Macron, which was awful, because her program is much more socialist and much more progressive and much more people oriented than Macron's. But anyway, now we have the legislatives. And so if the left wing, the leftist parties, including Mélenchon, the communists, the socialists don't even really exist anymore, but left-wing parties, if they win the legislatives in June, then Mélenchon would become the prime minister. So the president in France is very presidential, in terms of like international and national policy, but the prime minister does run the government. And so if Mélenchon does become prime minister, then we would have someone vehemently opposed to Macron, who is president, and then Mélenchon, who has a very progressive, much more aligned, like with Le Pen, amazingly, and that's called cohabitation. It's sort of like a Democratic president in the United States with a Republican House and Senate. And
how this gonna work? This is like opposing forces.
Well,
contradicting one another.
It happened in the second term of François Mitterrand, who was socialist. They did everything they could to destroy his policies. In his first term, just destroyed him in the media, destroyed him and he was he was a very corrupt guy, but they did a very, very corrupt politician. But they did everything they could to destroy him, destroy his platform, nationalizing, big corporations, et cetera. So the legislative elections in his second term, the conservatives won. And so Jacques Chirac was the prime minister during the second term of Mitterrand. And it's just like in the United States, at least it stops, some of the destruction that Macron is imposing, as Hollande did, and Sarkozy did, the last three presidents. It would at least keep Macron from, pushing the faces of the French in the mud more and more as he is now, yes, and making them poorer and poorer.
Oh my goodness, what an image. When you just said these words, I actually saw the picture. But Jeff, can I ask you within this, because I really don't want to lose this question, is, first of all, I have a very strong sense of incredible similarities to quite big extent with Trump and Biden and Le Pen and Macron, which means rigged. Now the question is Le Pen doing anything about this? If there is an evidence like this coming out, and I'm sure there is more other ways of rigging this, is this over? Are they trying to look into this, and reverse it?
I don't know. I have not. The only place I am seeing all this evidence is on anti-establishment, alternative media. It's kind of like, although Trump was the first president, who actually said that the votes were rigged, and it was true. It was the most egregious rigged vote election probably in the history of modern democracy. But in the past, Lyndon Baines Johnson stole this election. Kennedy won in 1960 because, he stole. the election to beat Nixon. And it's sort of like, well, okay, we didn't steal enough votes this time. Trump, Hillary didn't steal enough votes in 2016 to beat Trump. And so it's just sort of like, well, this is the way it works, and we'll just cheat better next time. We'll just cheat more. So I don't know if they're going to do anything about it. Obviously, with Macron in the presidency and the prime minister being his twin, it's not going to happen. Now, maybe if Mélenchon gets into it becomes prime minister, and there is some hope. The left is always divided here. And the last time the left got together, Mitterrand won, and that was the last. I mean, okay, Hollande was supposedly a socialist, in 2012, but he was a neoliberal Trojan horse. He was just a very, 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 very anti-socialist. But if the left can get together on this, on these legislatives, it would at least put some balance. Right now, Macron has a huge majority in the legislature, so he can do whatever he wants, and they're happy to go along with him.
So there is no way.
Le Pen, I've heard nothing. It's almost like, well, if you talk about that, we're going to destroy you. And I don't know what kind of threats there are: extortion, blackmail, bribery. I have no idea. But it would take a government like Mélenchon, and he would have to have the majority in the legislature, the Chambre des Députés and the Senate, to get anything done. But we have to remember they're also blackmailed, bribed, and extorted. So it's the whole system is just rotten to the core. And I don't know if it will ever come out. And the only time it's ever come out in the United States was because of Donald Trump. And look what happened to him.
Well, it's not over yet with this, because media, of course, is not reporting, but there's a lot of stuff going on with those states and the voting. But Jeff, I actually, and this is maybe a very different comment now, because it's not about that tarot cards or reading or astrology. However, all is important. I had a lady who I connect with very frequently, Ashala, just yesterday. And we look into this election, second time actually, with the cards, with tarot cards. So this is like spiritual approach to the subject. And she actually said that this is not over yet, and something is going to change in the outcome of this. So I actually want to ask you another thing that is a little bit surprising, maybe. When I read certain comments, and I read this comment, which I tend not to believe in. However, I want to ask your thoughts on this, that there was a deal between Le Pen and Macron, like that was a deal for this to take place, to be like this right now. Do you think this is possible? Like she's sold out or something like that?
Sure. Hey, money walks, pardon the dirty word, but money walks and shit talks. I have always wondered, why are there 7 leftist parties running in the first round that just completely dilutes? If all of those people had voted for Mélenchon, he would have won in the first round. Are they bribed? Are they blackmailed? Are they extorted? To get their 1.5% or 2% of the vote. And then they have to, if they don't get at least 5%, and none of them did, then except Mélenchon, and none of them did, then they have to pay the money that they got from the government. They have to pay them back because they didn't get 5%. We never hear where that money comes from to get that to pay off all those campaign debts. I personally believe that they're assured you run, you have your moment of glory in the press, and you get your get your your thing in the you get your your little your thing in the in the envelope, etc. You run, and you won't get your 5%, but we'll make sure your debts get paid off. And so and within 10 minutes of Macron being declared the winner in the first round, Mélenchon, within 10 minutes, he was already on the national television saying, we are not going to give one vote to Marine Le Pen. It's just like, and yet she's more socialist, more left-wing, and more progressive and populist by several magnitudes than neoliberal, neocon, war hawk, pro-Brussels, pro-World Economic Forum, just, and if they'd all said, if Mélenchon said, well, you should vote for her, she might have won. But because all the leftist candidates came out within 30 minutes and they all said to not vote for Le Pen. Why? Are they being paid? Are they getting, are they being influenced, somehow? So yes, I think it's very, very possible that she cut a deal, why not? She's still there. I don't think she will ever have a chance to win again. Is it her daughter or her niece, who is pretty savvy, who might take her place eventually? But the Le Pen name is unfortunately so tainted because of her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, and I just don't know if she would ever be able to win. And of course, the big lie propaganda machine is not going to let her or any candidate that does not serve the interests of Washington and Brussels and London. They're just not going to let him win. So,
Jeff, thank you for clarifying this. But I actually, one more question on this election. We are talking about French people, right? It's not just the yellow vest, overall French people. I know they go on the streets. I know they protest. I know they say no. I know they often strike, even before they used to strike a lot. When I was in Paris, was always a strike. But how you see this? People not agreeing, let's say first with this choice of president, and second with whatever he will be trying to implement. So the objection from the people who are the only way to change the reality. How you see that going forward?
Well, right now we it's all the yellow vests. It would take a much broader mobilization of middle class people, the silent majority, as they like to call it in the United States, the silent majority, to rise up and make so much noise. The problem is that Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, just announced right after Macron got elected that the European Union has already got everything all ready in June to reinstate the vaccine pass, which I call the Nazi pass. So all they have to do is come up with a new variant, Zulu or Houston or whatever, Warsaw, maybe they'll call it the Warsaw variant, I don't know, and shut the country down, demobilize the people, make them, stay home, confine them, etc., to stop any broad protest. And I'm really worried that in June, even though there never has been in the history of the world a virus in summer, they may come up with, they may do something like that, because it's already been announced by Ursula von der Leyen. So I don't know what's going to happen. It would take a massive protest. All I can hope for is that at least the legislative elections would be harder to corrupt, because if you're in Saint Denis, outside of Paris, which is full of immigrants, it's kind of hard to, the candidates are all going to be left wing, and so at least at the legislative level, I think it's harder for the government to scrub rolls, because you can't scrub. I mean, if you scrub rolls in Saint Denis, well, there's still going to be all the other people in Saint Denis. You'd have to scrub everybody in Saint Denis, and somebody's got to vote. Somebody's got to represent Département number 93. So I think there is a chance that the left could win in June, although, as my wife pointed out on television, they're already trying to sabotage Mélenchon like they did in the two presidential runs.
There we go. Yeah.
And the big lie propaganda machine is already, just steamrolling to try to destroy him and keep him from becoming prime minister. But it would, if enough people, if he becomes prime minister, he could call for a lot of changes to be voted for and if they have a majority in the legislature and they're not too corrupt, they could, or bribed or blackmailed, extorted, then they could make some positive changes for the people in the Constitution. They could not do the Nazi pass, what I call the Nazi pass. They could not do the confinements and the lockdowns and the curfews. So right now, everybody I know that cares is hoping that Mélenchon becomes the prime minister. But what a sad statement that here we are, we're just like desperately trying to, have our voices heard, and it's just, we're always last. The people are always last. It's awful.
So Jeff, we will end here, but before, as I understand, if he gets in, he has enough power to object, to refuse all those Nazi passes that Macron is trying to implement. The prime minister, right? He can do it. The prime minister.
Yeah, he can. Yes, he can. The problem is that Hollande passed the Patriot Act, the U.S.-style Patriot Act in 2015. So the president basically has dictatorial powers.
Oh, this is my question. Okay.
Article 16 and Article 16 and Article 36 in the Constitution. Hollande, they were already dictatorial. But he made them even more dictatorial. And so basically, France has not had a constitution or a democracy, especially since 2015, when Hollande passed all those changes to the constitution. So, but if Macron did say by fiat, we're going to do a Nazi pass, and the prime minister says no, and the legislature says no, it's going to be he would be extremely limited in his ability because he can say all he wants, but if the lieutenants and the soldiers under him don't cooperate, what are you going to do? So it would be a big help if Mélenchon got elected prime minister. But I can tell you, the media, the propaganda machine, the big lie propaganda machine is so overwhelming, is so brainwashing that it would be almost a miracle if he does become prime minister, because they're going to destroy him in the next 2 months. Destroy him.
So Jeff, I have
6 weeks. 6 weeks. Yeah,
6 weeks. I have some audience. This is my last question for you. I have some audience from France. Wonderful people. Some are Americans like you who live there. Some are native French citizens. I want to ask you a more personal question now. How do you keep sanity in this situation how is your life? Like, if you can give advice to those people who live in France, I know they are watching. What is your advice to go through this in that country right now?
Well, for me, I do meditation every morning. I do auto hypnosis. I do yoga. I do osteopathic stretches and yoga stretches that my daughter taught me. I do daily exercise. I take walks on the beach. I take walks on the cliffs. I go swimming. I just try to take care of my wife, and I take lots and lots and lots of supplements and vitamins for antioxidants, for our good health. Mm-hmm. That's all I can do, and I work, I have my journalism. Unfortunately, I'm also having to teach to pay the bills. I teach Chinese students online to pay the bills. So, that's what we can do, but it's been an awful, awful, awful 2 years. And there's a lot of depression out there. There's a lot of psychosis out there. There are a lot of suicides out there.
Yes. Mental
health problems, alcoholism, domestic abuse, drugs, prescription drugs, mood what are the Wellbutrin and all these other, psychotropic drugs. So it's been tough. And we've now had a little bit of relative freedom, with the Nazi past being suspended by Castex, but I'm afraid they're going to come down with it again to keep protests, limited. At that point, would the boiler pot explode? I don't know. I just don't know. But it needs to, and not just here, but all over Europe and all over the United States and Canada and Australia and New Zealand. I mean, and England is just the West. The West is just, in my opinion, is just rotten to the core and needs to start over.
And it will. And I somehow am, in spite of all of this, I see the future that is very bright, almost as if this has to be so horrible as a contrast to never repeat this again. But we will get through this. And I so appreciate you coming on today. And tell me, before we end, what is the best way to support you, Jeff, through this journey?
Well, unfortunately, my wife's and my retirement is not enough to pay all the bills here. And so every week on my website, I ask people to contribute money, but it's pitiful what I get. Just go on my website, www.chinarising.puntopress.com, which you'll put in the bottom. I have I have QR codes. I have everything where people can contribute money, even if it's just $1, $5, one-time subscription. I don't care. My wife appreciates it, and it helps us put food on the table and buy hydrocarbons. Diesel for our car and heating fuel for our house. So it's that's or buy my books, buy my China trilogy. I don't make much, but I love people buy my books, and that would be a big help. And I recommended in our last interview that people support you too. So
thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Get through
but
this.
This is about you. Thank you. This is about you. And I just want to say all the profits from this little advertisement that YouTube pays me for the videos, I'm gonna actually donate to Jeff from this video.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's support one. No, whatever. I mean,
I'm gonna give you a Buddhist praise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, and all the links to Jeff books, his channel, and every other website that he has are down below. So please scroll down the video and check it out. If you want to support him, you'll find the links down below as well. Thank you so much, Jeff, again.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Ania. Take care.